Hello, Dr. Smith. My name is Patrick McConn. I'm a student in your ENC2210 Technical Communications class, and I am submitting my oral report. I would first like to thank you for allowing me to turn it in a few days late. It's been very helpful. Basically what I'm doing is I'm giving you an update on my formal recommendation report, in which you assigned us 4 examples that we had to analyze according to Mike Markel's guidelines on effective documents and websites. The first one, the Florida Forest Stewardship website, as I was looking through the things that jumped out that were positive about it, where it had a great first impression in the sense that it looked very professional, it was very simple, wasn't too complex, was easy to find information. The hierarchy of information was clearly stated and what fit into each category. The location of information, it fit that very well, and I felt like it did those first 3 goals. It did those very well. Some things that I felt like it would need to improve on, however, were helping readers remember key points better, as Markel's 5th guideline is, and in this, maybe try using a bolder text or something like that, where they had points where they would show a bullet point listing, and it all looked the same, so it was very hard to remember what key points were important. The next example would be the Xbox packing instructions. I felt it did a really good job at creating a first impression, again, in the sense it looked professional, but it also, the design of it kind of gave it the proper setting, since it is Xbox and it's based around entertainment. It also looked very simple. Everything was laid out very concisely, very efficiently. The hierarchy of information with each step listed in order was very effective, and it helped readers be able to remember the information that they needed to know very well. I would recommend making changes in the sense you might want to take and label label the steps, not just with numbers, with like an overview of what each step encompasses. That way, if someone's going back through trying to find which step they're looking for at this particular time, they don't have to read through each of the steps to get to where they're trying to get to. Another thing I thought might be helpful would be to figure out, to say how they could go about getting a shipping label and a box, because both of those they just said to go out and get one. They didn't give them any information on how that might be done. With the 3rd example, the article on the healthcare bill and the key provisions for that, I noticed this one I felt had probably the most met Markel's guidelines the most effectively out of all 4 examples. I had a great first impression with the design layout. The information was laid out very clearly into how it fit into different parts. It effectively showed what information applied to certain groups of people, so you can go through and find what the type of person that you would fit into, and then find out how the health bill affects you. So it was very effective in that stance. It was good in helping you remember, and the fact that it italicized important dates that you would need to know. Some things I felt might be more helpful is if they started with the general reform session instead of putting that at the end. That way you can start with a more general perspective and then bring it back down to a more specific with how it applies to individual people. Finally, the last example was the article on living and working in China. This, I felt, as soon as you open it, it looked professional. However, it was almost cluttered in a sense. It did have a good professional appearance. It did a good job of using headings so that people could find out what they're looking for. My recommendation, though, I found that the 2 columns made it hard to understand, hard to follow. It created awkward breaks in paragraphs and stopped the flow of information. So maybe if you do continue to use the 2 columns, break it up so that a new column is a new section instead of having a new column in the middle of a paragraph of information, because that was the biggest thing that I noticed about this article, was that it was incredibly difficult to follow, but it did a really great job on helping you remember what was necessary to remember, especially with the fact that it showed the author's contact information if readers did have any other questions. So that concludes my update on how my formal recommendation report is going, and I will have that uploaded and sent to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much. You stay classy.